We can soon know more about Starbucks' plan to add corporate headquarters in Nashville later this year.
And we are following big news out of Starbucks this morning. They are expanding corporate offices to Nashville, Tennessee.
So on this channel, we have talked about multiple different times the great reorientation that is happening in the United States of America, where a bunch of specific businesses that are typically tied to specific cities or metropolitan areas or specific states are deciding that they are going to relocate, and the way that they're doing this is by opening up a second headquarters that will eventually become their primary headquarters in a better tax, better business climate state. And yeah, this has been an absolute disaster for major metropolitan areas. And although we're going to talk about Starbucks and the city of Seattle, make no mistake about it, it is not just Starbucks, and it's not just that particular city, the city of Seattle, that is losing all these businesses. That being said, having a new socialist mayor definitely does not help. But just so you guys are aware, this has happened across this nation to a lot of blue cities. And a perfect example of this is my home city, known for the financial sector, known for the finance industry, that now has fewer finance jobs on Wall Street in New York City than there are in the state of Texas. So that is being reoriented from the financial capital of not just the United States of America, but of the world to the state of Texas. In terms of Seattle, they've also lost a big Boeing manufacturing plant that over a decade ago decided that they were going to locate in South Carolina. Speaking of South Carolina and North Carolina, by the way, auto manufacturing is happening there from a lot of allegedly foreign companies like Toyota, BMW, and Volvo. They're making vehicles there because Michigan is not what it used to be. Detroit is definitely not what it's used to be. And yeah, this is the obvious progression of this nation, where all these different various companies that again are being targeted by politicians are deciding that they're not really interested in what these politicians are offering them. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to specifically talk about Starbucks because there are a few companies that are tied to the city of Seattle like Starbucks, and considering Boeing already left, and that's another one that's arguably more tied to that particular city. And yeah, they're opening up a second headquarters. A bunch of high-paying jobs are moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and that is a city on the rise as we're watching Seattle collapse. And it's a disaster in every possible way. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Well, Christine, the main global headquarters will remain here in Seattle, but it is true. There are going to be jobs here that will now be moving to Nashville. You can think of that as essentially a second corporate headquarters that Starbucks will have. The goal is to add 2,000 jobs there over the course of the next 5 years.
So right off the top, I want to make something 100% clear, which is Nashville, Tennessee may or may not get the full number of jobs that are being promised by this Starbucks headquarters moving to this particular location. Right now, they're promising about 2,000 high-end jobs. I think the average salary for these jobs is $125,000 a year, which is absolutely fantastic. And by the way, Nashville, even though they have seen an increase in housing prices, actually allows people to build. So we've actually seen prices come down from their peak during the pandemic. And of course, obviously with no state income tax, these are great salaries for individuals willing to relocate or individuals that are already in the city of Nashville that again could take advantage of these jobs. But that being said, sometimes when companies end up making these big relocations and they'll get a deal or some kind of tax credits with the government, they don't actually end up producing the full amount of jobs that they claim. But even if it's 1,000 jobs with this new corporate headquarters, this is obviously an indication that Seattle isn't what it used to be and Nashville is on the rise. And again, as we've seen with multiple different industries, this is a trend. This is beyond a pattern. This is something that they need to recognize. But unfortunately, Seattle Democrats are not recognizing what is going on. They don't know what time it is. That's why they're proposing a corporate head tax, trying to sneak in a new state income tax, even though Washington state is one of the few states in the entire union that has no income tax, like the state of Tennessee, which also has no state income tax. But again, the Democrats cannot be stopped. They can't help themselves. And a perfect example of this is the mayor of the city of Seattle, who is losing out on these jobs, who's actively encouraging a boycott of the company Starbucks due to the fact that she doesn't like the fact that they don't want people to unionize.
I'm asking everyone who believes in fairness, dignity, and workers' rights to stand with us on this picket line. While baristas are on strike, the baristas have shared that the best way to show our support is not to buy Starbucks in solidarity.
By the way, Starbucks is like the perfect example of a company that panders to the left nonstop and doesn't get any rewards from it, because right there you have the mayor of the city of Seattle, the socialist mayor of the city of Seattle, encouraging people to stop drinking their coffee, to boycott them when they're at a time of financial hardship. But if you guys will recall, if you guys will remember, these are the same Democrats who would tell everybody that they would gladly pay $1 more for a latte in order to make sure that Starbucks employees ended up getting a living wage. And unlike many other companies in this nation, Starbucks ended up responding to that by raising the wages of their baristas. They ended up adding a bunch of programs like college tuition programs, job training programs, a bunch of sick time and whatnot. And what was the reward that these companies ended up getting? Well, guess what? A bunch of people wanted to investigate them for price gouging because the price of their latte ended up at that period of time when, again, these people said they were willing to pay $1 more for coffee, going up by like 50 cents a cup. And by the way, this was at the same time that we had a massive shock in the coffee industry, meaning that the crop was the most damaged by bad weather in that year. So coffee prices went up by the ultimate maximum. And yet these very same people who said that they wanted companies to do this wanted to investigate them for price gouging, wanted to put them under federal government scrutiny, again, for a price increase that was around half of what they said they were willing to pay in order for the employees to get a minimum wage. And in addition to that, they started encouraging all these union drives at all these different various Starbucks locations, because obviously we needed a union because the evil bad company that just raised everybody's wages and added people's benefits because they believed the things that we believed, they need to be punished for that. And yeah, Starbucks obviously sick of it. And by the way, the costs associated with this particular move essentially make it all worth it, because while we hear about the big number for jobs and salaries at this new Starbucks location, $125,000 average salary for these office workers, the fact is Starbucks itself is going to reportedly save about $12,000 in terms of costs just by hiring those people in Nashville, Tennessee, rather than in Seattle, Washington, due to the fact that they're adding in all these ridiculous taxes over there. And again, they're trying to smuggle in a state income tax, ruining the appeal of that particular state. And they're trying to do it based on the idea that it's only going to be incomes over this amount. But again, this is exactly how every tax is promised to you. It's only the richest of the rich that are going to pay it. But once that tax is in there, once they destroy that constitutional protection for everyday Washingtonians, guess what? You're all going to end up paying it in another generation. And we've actually done a video on this channel specifically on this tax, and they ended up asking the two Democrats that were behind it if they were open to, in the future, a general income tax, and they dodged the question. And the reason they dodged the question is because the answer was an absolute yes. 100%, this is the plan, and obviously you got to move accordingly, and that's exactly what Starbucks is doing right here.
Starbucks says it will be a mix of new positions and Seattle-based positions that will be relocated to Nashville. They didn't completely specify which positions. The company is investing $100 million in this expansion. It is a big change.
So look, the company is allegedly going to invest $100 million into building this new headquarters in Nashville, which, by the way, the build on this, even though that sounds like a hefty price tag, is going to be extraordinarily cheaper than building in the city of Seattle, which has massive zoning issues. But as we've talked about before, Nashville is not one of those cities with these kind of issues. We've seen the chart of prices of homes going up in Nashville and building permits following that. Again, as you would expect, more demand means that people are actually able to build more supply over there, and therefore prices end up dropping as a response to that. So in addition to all the construction jobs that are going to be created in terms of building this, you also have all these high-end positions that are going to be a mix of new hires and relocations from Seattle. And by the way, they're probably going to downplay at this moment in time how many people they're going to relocate, or they're going to say, hey, you either move or you get fired, because in the future, they're definitely going to push more and more towards this Nashville location. Again, this is something that we've seen before time and time again, where you open up a second headquarters and then you end up pushing people in that direction. And the thing is that it's obviously the business climate in particular that is reeling people in there. And Nashville has a very strong economy, mostly due to the healthcare sector. A lot of people don't realize that that is the major industry of Nashville. I know it's called Music City because one of the queens of England actually named it a music city, and they took on that moniker. But the main industry there is in fact healthcare, and that draws in a lot of high-end professionals. Nashville is like cleaner Austin, or what you would imagine Austin should be. Austin, by the way, at least when I was there, especially around the capital area, is disgusting. It's like how you imagine Los Angeles is right now. That's how Austin is. And I'm sure that means Los Angeles is significantly worse. But Nashville, clean city, nice city. I enjoy a lot about it when I was over there. And honestly, the thing that probably puts me the most off about Nashville, and people are going to get at me about this, but you know what? If you're a part Latino and you like your Latino food, you will know that this is in fact the case, is the food. They have great stuff over there, great barbecue at a pork ribeye at Adele's, absolutely fantastic. High recommend, along with the cornbread. Obviously, the Nashville hot chicken, absolutely amazing. But I need a better mix of my Latino stuff if I'm going to be in Nashville, if I'm being perfectly honest. They need to fix that. That's the one thing they need to get on. And maybe, just maybe, they'll get something else to locate over there. Although very likely it's going to be Chipotle because, you know, that's also a Seattle-based company. And everybody seems to be moving to places like Nashville.
When we looked around trying to figure out where would be the right place to go, some key things for us were, you know, is the talent pool local and available? Is there tech talent local and available? And, you know, what was clear to us is Nashville was that place that had all those things. Great access to great talent, great access to a place for people to grow their career and grow their families. And this is a key step forward for us in our Back to Starbucks plan. And obviously it's a key piece of how we continue to grow our global brand.
So that's the other thing that is actually amazing about the city of Nashville, because they have so many high-end professionals, because actually Nashville is quite educated in terms of a metropolitan area in the South, because you have all these people who work in high-end positions in the healthcare industry and the education that follows that. You can go to a place like this if you're the city of Seattle, and you're not losing all that much in terms of talent pool, because as we've talked about before, a lot of these smart and talented people are also relocated. And by the way, a lot of the families are relocating to cities like this because a lot of left-wing metropolitan areas are no longer cities where you can go in order to make money. They're actually places where you go in order to spend money. However, southern cities don't seem to have that problem. You can build up. You can become something. Again, New York's great slogan is if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. But in reality, the people who come to New York City right now, and again, not all, obviously there are certain exceptions to what I'm saying right here, but in reality, this is becoming more and more true, are the children of rich kids, are again, Nepo babies that are financed by their parents, a la Zohran Mamdani and his wife, by the way, and these are the kind of people who come here, again, who have everything paid for by their parents, and then they vote for crappy socialist policies to make it more difficult for other people to rise up. That is not what's happening in Nashville. It is a growing city. A lot of businesses are locating there. And in addition to the healthcare industry, Starbucks, all these other companies, the tech sector that are going to Nashville, you also have a burgeoning media empire that is being built there. And again, in terms of conservative media, obviously the Daily Wire located half their company there. And that's because Nashville is one of the places to be in the United States of America. Again, one of the fastest growing metros in the entire country. And in addition to that, you have price stability or slight increases in price after a massive increase, obviously, during the pandemic. And in a lot of places in Nashville, because again, these states are so build oriented, you're seeing prices come down. So this is the place for a lot of families to relocate to. And yeah, we're seeing that exemplified by Starbucks. And while you have the mayor complaining about them, saying that we need to boycott them, guess what? Starbucks is boycotting the city of Seattle. They're no longer going to fit the bill for that particular city. And considering that city is very dependent on business taxes in order to stay operating, this is going to lead to massive deficits and massive problems in the city of Seattle. But guess what? The mayor, too stupid to see that. Again, this is a woman who could not pay her own bills. Remember what I was talking about how people go to left-wing cities and mooch off their parents? That's quite literally what this woman was doing prior to winning the mayorship. So she doesn't understand the concept of actually having to balance your budget based on what you earn. So why would she understand that as the mayor of the city of Seattle? But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Seattle being shocked, their mayor being dumbfounded at the company leaving, one of the companies that's iconic and tied to that city, Starbucks. Till next time.